Good old-fashioned entertainment. It's another confession. If you have one, confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Today's comes from Jumpin' Jack. Thanks, Jumpin' Jack, Father Simon and the Collective Souls. I've been umming and ahhing about this for a while. I think I should say slightly PG,
really?
Particularly if you're eating.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I thought today was the day to send it. This is a confession that goes back to 2007 and involves working in a bar in Leeds and a bottle of hot sauce called Da Bomb. To put it into context, Tabasco sauce is on the Scoville heat unit scale, 3,750, whereas Da Bomb is 329,900 Scoville heat units.
Oh dear.
That's a lot hotter than Tabasco. There is also a Da Bomb which is 1.5 million SCUs called the Final Answer, but it's not that one. It's the comparatively
Yes,
only terribly
mild.
strong 321,000 one. Anyway, so this is made of hot habanero peppers, natural pepper extract, and concentrated pineapple juice. Though I have a feeling that the concentrated pineapple juice
It's very tasty.
gets lost. Now, this bottle, says Jumpin' Jack, was used in a lot of prank pulling behind the bar amongst each other, but I won't go into that. But for this confession, I believe we used it appropriately and for what was right. We had a term that we used behind the bar for certain customers. These customers used to swagger into the bar after work in their Armani suits.
Oh yeah.
Demand drinks as soon as possible and then ask for a receipt to
Ugh.
claim back on their expenses. Upon seeing the card that they paid with, we noticed that a lot of these guys, and they were all guys, were called Steve. So because of that, we began to dub them all Steve. I'm sorry it's not Quentin, Matthew.
No.
But they exhibited all the characteristics of Quentins, but they were just called Steve. Entitled, arrogant, hooray Henrys, who would have found Michael Douglas's character in Wall Street, Gordon Gekko, a bit of a pinko liberal, effete, commie-loving hippie. You understand? These guys aren't posh, they're just ghastly. But they thought they were God's gift to women, God's gift to men, and humanity in general. We've all met them. We
Okay.
all know these Steves that you're talking about.
Anything that happens now, everyone's okay.
So one night, a bunch of Steves had been in the bar demanding drinks and trying to impress the women who were just wanting a girls' night out. In fact, just annoying absolutely everyone who wasn't in their group. And surely Sister Susie must know what kind of people I mean here. They go to your pub?
They don't stay for very long.
All right. Wow.
I get rid of them.
Their world revolved around themselves, so naturally the bar had to as well. Look at me in my Armani suit and Gucci loafers with no socks. Another round, barman, and make it snappy. So when they were wanting to show off their maximum Steveness, they demanded shots. So one of our bartenders suggested a flatliner, which normally is Sambuca, tequila, and Tabasco. Quite a nice concoction, unless you use Da Bomb instead.
Oh dear.
So this is what was tried. Sambuca, tequila, Da Bomb. And then an extra shot for free. On the house. Oh, and maybe one more. Just a little.
Oh, no.
Just a little one. Just when the Steves thought that's probably enough habanero pepper and pepper extract for now, and maybe a little more pineapple juice would be wise. Well, it's too late. That's your drink, sunshine. Over to you. One mouthful, stunned. Second mouthful, even more stunned. Third mouthful, boom! And one by one, we saw them run to the toilets. Came back a few minutes later, we could hear them saying things like, I can normally handle hot sauce, but that was ridiculous. And then they left. Now, Father Simon, it's not this group of Steves that I seek forgiveness from, nor the group of people who wondered why we didn't get rid of them sooner, but it is, of course... This is where I'm just going to tidy things up a little bit. Alex, our cleaner. Certainly none of the Steves gave him a tip when he tried to help spruce them back up because they couldn't claim it on expenses. So Father Simon, Sister Susie, Brother Matthew, even though he's a brother from the gutter, please forgive our stupidity in not thinking about the impact that this had on Alex the cleaner. For that, we are very, very sorry. For the Steves, they can jog on. Thank you in advance, even if it doesn't make it onto the show. I hope it causes a giggle for the research team. Well, let me tell you, the research team are all here. We're all in this room. So Jumpin' Jack, Monday's confession, all about the bomb and an interesting mixture with Sambuca and tequila. What do you say, Sister Susie?
Well,
from the pub.
Jumpin' Jack, I was with you all the way. I've met these people. They don't come into our pub because we have very lovely regulars that come into the pub. I have met them many times. We had a similar hot sauce that my one of the guys that work in the pub used to use in Bloody Marys. But he'd like, how hot? Really hot? You sure? And he'd put it in and always had the not quite the same reaction. But you had me until the very end when it is about the cleaner. So I was going to forgive you. I don't think I can because I don't want to be the person that had to deal with that.
Well, I suppose that's right. That's why it had a PG certificate. Obviously, Brother Matthew.
Oh, right, I was obviously going to forgive from day one on this. And I think it just about sails on the right side of the line that we have decided to arbitrarily paint for confessions of what gets on and what doesn't. And, the pub toilets are always pretty bad, aren't they? So,
Yes.
I'm sure Alex the cleaner was like, oh yeah, standard Monday night, frankly. This is what I normally have to deal with. So I am going to forgive because, in the end, it was just the bunch of Steves, wasn't it? Getting what they deserved. So,
Yeah.
that's fine by me.
61054 on the text. It's the People's Verdict. Start your message with Simon. Do you forgive Jumpin' Jack? Yes or no? On the text, 61054. On the confessions front, if you have a new confession for us, and I think on the basis of today, pub confessions always interesting, challenging sometimes. Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. The People's Verdict on today's unfortunate combination of Sambuca, tequila, Da Bomb hot sauce, and a whole bunch of objectionable Steves, as they're being referred to in this confession. Here's the People's Verdict.
So Sue in Nottingham says, totally forgiven. My ex-husband was called Steve. I'd have loved to give him one of those drinks. Ray in Hornchurch says, forgiven. I have a brother called Steve who works in the city, and the confession described him exactly. In fact, I'd encourage a bar person to do the same to him. Love him loads, but it would be exceedingly funny. And finally, Gary in Leeds says, forgiven, good on you. Jumpin' Jack, flash in the pan.
Oh, I see. Yes,
Yeah.
that actually works. That actually works quite well. Thank you very much. Okay, another confession tomorrow. If yours is the best confession of the week, you get a smart speaker. That's how good it is. You send it to confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Greatest Hits Radio. Well, very fine song, Love Train, OJ's, 5:45. Look of expectancy there from Matt as he's wondering quite when his microphone's going to be turned on.
There it is.
There
That's all
it
you
is.
care about.
Wondering how Art Garfunkel's going to turn up in tonight's story. Well, it comes from Jerry. Afternoon, Jerry. If this is the best of the week, of course, the smart speaker is going to be Jerry's. Jerry says, Dear Simon and the Forgiveness Collective, going back to the mid-1990s for this one, I went to see Art Garfunkel, supported by Martin Joseph, in concert at St George's Hall in Bradford. Martin Joseph's got a very good album, by the way, about to come out, called 1960, just that I passed it on. Listen out,
Wow.
listen out for track 3, by the way. Very good. Anyway, this was a great gig with many happy memories, but it's what happened after the show that has led to this confession.
Ooh.
The gig finished and people started to head home. I had previous experience of the layout and backstage facilities at St George's Hall, as I'd been involved in a gig there a few years earlier, and I knew the layout like the back of my hand. So I decided to see if I could sneak backstage and, as unlikely as it sounds, meet Art.
Okay.
As I, like everyone else, headed for the exit, I looked towards the auditorium stage door and noticed no security guard. So I made a quick turn, walked straight through the door, as if I owned the place. The reality was my heart was pounding and I was shaking with nerves. I had no ID and I certainly was not allowed to be there. I hadn't thought this through at all. If I met Art, what even was I going to say to him? Love the hair, dude. Say hi to Paul when you see him. I looked round for what seemed like an age, probably 2 or 3 minutes, found no one to my relief, and decided it was a bit of a bad and risky idea anyway, bottled it, headed back to the door at the front of stage, filled with relief. What was I thinking? Anyway, this is where it all got a bit weird. As I opened the door, there were about a dozen people standing there, looking straight at me. Before I could explain my trespass, one of them came up to me and said, "We're here for the backstage tour and the meet and greet with Art." Sure enough, they all had tickets gripped very tightly in their hands. And instead of saying, "I'm sure someone will be along soon," like most people would, I inexplicably said, "Brilliant, I've been waiting for you. Hand me your tickets so I can verify them. I'll go and organize things. I'll be back in a minute. Wait here." And they did. They handed me 12 extremely valuable, rare meet and greet tickets. I had no idea. I had far less right to be there than each of them, and here I was with 12 backstage passes in my hand, back through the stage door, and there I was, backstage again. Thinking on my feet, I headed further into the maze of backstage corridors, following the voices that I could hear. Did I recognize some of them? After a couple of minutes, I found the band with their roadies and management team in a large room, drinking and eating and laughing away. I walked in bold as brass and asked for the manager, as I had the backstage meet and greet group with me. "No problem," said an American. "Oh, no problem." Absolutely no problem. Bring them all in, bring them all in, bring them all in. We love the meet and we love the greet.
Oh, we do.
Greeting and a meeting. We love it.
Up, diggity dog.
Anyway, I couldn't believe it. Art was sat there in the corner. There he was, a 20th century musical legend within touching distance. I headed back to the stage door, ticket still in hand. "Follow me," I said to them all, like I was a big-time tour manager. As they filed through to backstage, I held the door open. It was the least I could do. As the 12th person passed, there was still another 4 people standing there looking nervously. "Is there any chance we could come in too?" they said rather feebly. "We've got no tickets, but we'll pay. We'll pay money. We've got money." Now I know what you're thinking. Surely he can't make cash out of this dodgy situation. Well, no, because then there'd be no forgiveness.
No, there would be no forgiveness there.
No, I said, "Come on in, I'll sneak you in."
Oh, right. Just get them in.
Just get them in.
Get them
Didn't take their money.
Bring them all in.
Yeah.
They were delighted. The men shook my hand like I was Art himself. Kisses and cuddles from the girls.
What?
And in we went. 12 official, fully ticketed fans, 4 unofficial fans sneaked in, and me. 12 tickets in my hand. Anyway, beer flowed and food was shared, and Art, not renowned for his light-hearted chit-chat,
Really?
he seemed to be on great form. Photos and stories and laughter, lifelong memories were made. We, the slightly larger meet and greet party, had a fabulous time. I didn't stay until the end. I stood back for a moment and smiled at what I'd done. No harm done, right, I thought.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, the orchestration. Then I slowly headed out the stage door to my car. There was a small group of people waiting by the tour bus. For a second or two, I thought about it. Could I make it to their hotel and maybe actually go on tour with these guys?
Yeah, well, why not?
I mean,
Surely
at some stage, Jerry...
Anyway, gonna run out.
Jerry says, well, no, the answer was no. I just smiled to myself and I headed home. However, rules were broken, I have to say. So, I have to say I'm not seeking forgiveness really from the 4 fans who had the night of their life. I don't seek forgiveness from the 12 good people who got exactly what they'd paid for. I don't seek forgiveness from the ticketing company whose meet and greet with Art ticket is framed and on the wall in my office. I do seek forgiveness, however, for the legend that is Arthur Garfunkel. I put him through 5 extra minutes of meeting and greeting torture. 5 more photos, 5 more autographs, 5 more utterly inane conversations, like the hair dude, say hello to Paul, all that nonsense. He probably told his manager, "Never again."
Oh, really? Wait,
what did he say?
Go on.
Anyway, he probably said that seemed far more than the 12 I agreed to. Possibly I also put him at risk of some crazed fan, because this is actually a fair point. I had no idea who these 4 people were.
No.
Anyway, it turned out they were fine. Poor man anyway, with his bright eyes and everything. Simon and team, can you please forgive me for this terrible act of deception? Well, of course, there are security issues raised here. Obviously, we don't exonerate any of it. Jerry needs some forgiveness, but is he going to get it from Sister Susie from the pub?
Oh, do you know what, Jerry? I really, really enjoyed that. I thought it was very good. There were some accents, and there was American accent. It was very good. And there was a few things I have to pick up, though. Sneaking those people in. I'm glad you didn't take their money. Very well done. However, the smoozing that it allowed you to feel that you got from that, I don't know if I'm okay with that, because there were, getting close to the women and, cheering on with the men. I'm not sure I agree with that.
They were excited to be allowed in.
Yeah, but they didn't have to, he had a position of power there, and I don't know if he did it very well, so I don't think I'm going to forgive you for that reason.
Okay, Brother Matthew.
I mean, which of us could honestly say we wouldn't have done the same thing? In the same situation, the fact is that no one was coming. He was the only one answering the door. They were all stood outside. No one else was there. So he was solving a problem, and it was all worked out fine in the end. So having solved this problem, you might even say that he was the bridge over troubled water. Was he? I think I did. So I'm going to forgive for that reason.
Is that right? Yeah. Just because you thought of a gag?
Yes, just because of that.
All right, okay.
Kind of.
The people's verdict, please. Do you forgive Jerry for his Art Garfunkel faux pas? On the text, please, it's 61054, and you start your message with Simon. Many moments ago, however, today's confession came in from Jerry. A terrible tale of backstage subterfuge and cheating. Art Garfunkel involved, and apparently a cheery Art Garfunkel,
yes,
which makes it a very rare confession, because Jerry went to see Art and Martin Joseph with a new album out in next month.
Okay, and
called
apparently
1960. Track 3 is definitely the best one there. Anyway, and sneaked everyone backstage, and Art, had to meet so many extra people, and it's entirely down to Jerry. So the people's verdict is in like this.
Okay, so Ray in Hornchurch says, forgiven. Any fan would have done the same. Very daring, but Matt's gag sealed it. Hilarious. Tom says, yes.
Funny that one got through.
That did get through, didn't it? Tom says, not forgiven. Those guys were offering him money. If he was going to do it properly, he should have taken the money, which I thought I was bad, but anyway. And finally, Courtney in Basildon says, forgiven. Inspired by the trip on the Team USA bus with Carl Lewis the other week,
that's true.
I would have definitely chanced getting on the tour bus.
We would like celebrity-based confessions.
Yes.
Carl Lewis was a part of that one.
Yes, he was.
Art Garfunkel was a part of this one. If you have any kind of celebrity-based story, it sounds like a tabloid
it does.
thing, doesn't it, really?
Yes.
Then we'd love to hear it. confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Just a backstage story, anything that you think. If you send in the best one of the week, you get a smart speaker. With our expensive new playout system, I've just noticed at the bottom right-hand corner of my screen, it says, it's 14 degrees and raining now. So,
is it?
Yeah, and then I looked out of the very expensive window behind me.
No rain.
It doesn't look like rain.
Clear blue sky. That's what it looks like. So basically, maybe that's plugged into Belgium. Anyway, it's confession time. 14 minutes to 6 o'clock. We would love to know the people's verdict, please, once you've got your hands into this one, which comes from Jimmy. Jimmy, thank you very much for today's confession. Simon, my story goes back to the year 2000. I was working as a cheese grader down in Somerset.
A cheese grader?
A cheese grader, yes. It was and still is a great job, as the job entails travelling around the world eating cheese. So on this particular day back in 2000, I left work late one morning to fly to Cork mid-afternoon to grade some cheese. That's what I had to do. The journey to the airport was good. I reached the airport in good time, checked in and sat down for about an hour. So before I needed to board, all was good with the world. The tannoy announcement rang out and asked all the people flying to Cork to proceed to the gate. At this point, I thought, I should probably have a wee now. Or shall I wait till I board?
Nah, wait till you're bored. Yeah.
I'm fine. I thought, I'll wait till I board.
Nothing's going to go
Do you know
wrong
where
there.
this is? We boarded the flight and I was relaxed. The pilot started to taxi away from the gate towards the runway, but after a couple of minutes stopped the plane and said that we'd been asked to hold due to some weather issues in Cork. Are you all right, madam?
No.
I've got some weather issues. We sat for an hour or so until we took off, but then up and away we were off. I was glad we'd taken off, as the seatbelt signs had been left on whilst we were sat on the plane, and now I was thinking, I could really do with that wee. As we reached our altitude, I was waiting for the seatbelt sign to go off, but the weather was poor, hence the delays, and the turbulence meant that the seatbelt sign stayed on. The pilot advised that as the flight was only 40 minutes, the weather was poor, he would be keeping the seatbelt signs on, so please could everyone stay in their seats. Well, okay, I'll have to go when I get to the airport at the other end. We landed safe and sound, and I was off to get my overnight bag from the carousel. As I walked through customs, I saw Dave, who was collecting me, frantically waving. I rushed over and said, "What's up, Dave?" He said, "I'm okay, but the police are pestering me, and I've parked illegally to pick you up, so let's crack on before I get a ticket." So he rushed across to his car, and yet again, I had not taken my chance to have the wee I had promised myself. Well, Dave proceeded to tell me that he had asked 2 of the coal stores that we were due to go to that day to stay late to allow us to still see the cheese, even though I was delayed. We got to the first store where a couple of warehouse guys were waiting in the car park, and with only one cold store door open, they clearly wanted me in and out quickly so that they could go home. I thought not a good idea to ask where their toilets are, as these guys want me gone. The same happened at the next stop number 2. Anyway, back in the car, I was getting desperate. Should I ask Dave to stop? Well, clearly the answer is yes. No, I thought, the hotel is only 20 minutes away, I'll make it. The traffic was slow into Cork City. We arrived later than planned at the hotel. I left Tom's car hurriedly. I walked into the hotel lobby and I saw the toilet just beyond the reception desk. When I look back, I cannot fathom why I thought the following, but I thought, you've made it all this way, holding it in. Oh, no. Why don't you wait till you get to your room and then you can have a wee? I checked in at the desk, trying to act as calm and collected as I could, but it was now starting to hurt. Once checked in, I walked to the lift as best I could, pressed the button. It probably only took 30 seconds for the lift to ping. Tell me it had arrived, but that felt like an eternity. And then bizarrely, it took another 30 seconds for the lift door to actually open. This was a very old lift, and I jumped in. I was on my own. I pressed the button for my floor, and as soon as the door shut, I was able to make that leg-twisting, doubling over, jumping kind of move that everyone does when they're trying to hold it in, but you can't do that in public. The lift reached my floor and pinged, and I had my room key and my overnight bag ready for the sprint to my room, but the door stayed shut. I was in turmoil and now starting to sweat. I was crossing my legs frantically one way and then the other. I did that kind of jumping motion like a Morris dancer. At the same time, I'm swearing and cursing at the expletive lift for the expletive doors to open. I knew shouting and swearing wasn't going to help, but I did it anyway. Yeah. Then, to my complete confusion and disbelief, and more importantly horror, I heard a polite cough behind me. One of those coughs to make you aware that you're not alone. Well, of course I'm alone. I thought I got into this lift on my own. It hasn't stopped anywhere. Slightly confused, I turned around, only to realise it was one of those lifts. The doors had opened on the other side.
Oh, no.
I looked up to see the lift's doors had opened, and looking into the lift at my antics stood the most angelic family of mum, dad and 2 young children. I was embarrassed and distraught. If the earth's core could have swallowed me up at that moment, I wanted it to happen. I walked out of the lift and tried to smile and look normal, but by the look on Mum and the children's faces, the damage was done. Dad looked confused, but Mum and the children looked shocked and scared. One child started crying as I walked out of the lift, and I heard him say, "Mummy, why was that angry man jumping and shouting at the lift?" I was mortified by my performance as I made my way at last for my now seemingly unimportant wee. Father Simon, lovely team and listeners, I asked for forgiveness not from Dave, who I was far less chatty to than normal, or either set of warehouse staff I kept late, but I asked for forgiveness from the angelic family who witnessed this distressing sight and heard such language from my potty mouth. I have tried to visualize what this must have been like for them, and only now realize that it probably looked even more weird and worse and more shocking from the rear view that they had. Please, angelic family, if you're listening, I would love you to forgive me. Well, let's see what our team make of this. Sister Susie,
Jimmy,
we've all been there, kind of.
Yeah, well, that really made me laugh, and I thought you were going to get stuck in the lift. That's where I thought this was going. And I'm really glad that you weren't stuck in the lift, because that would have been...
We have to go in the corner.
Awful.
That's
it's just not good,
all
is
those
it?
Electrics.
In his bag and anyway.
In his bag. I hadn't thought of that.
But I've just got one thing. How did he not hear the lift? Because when it opens, even if it's behind you, it would have pinged open.
He was too busy shouting and swearing.
Yeah, okay. But... you maybe should have realised the door opened, but we've all been there. I definitely have, and I'm going to forgive you on this occasion.
Brother from the gutter.
That got better with the bag. That was so much better with the bag. We're deep in sitcom territory here, aren't we? This is the bit where the central character is too polite to ask to be able to go to the loo, and it goes the entire episode. It's really, really good.
Very good.
I am definitely going to forgive for the in the bag reference, but also because Jimmy was turning the blue cheese. Yes, turning the blue cheese.
Is that what we've been gearing up for?
That's where it's been going. Blue cheese.
Yeah.
Turning the blue cheese. Yeah, works brilliantly. Very happy with it.
Okay, well, as long as you are. So it's the people's verdict. The appropriate name, Jimmy, maybe Jimmy Riddle, you never know. That could be. Well, you started it. Do you forgive Jimmy, yes or no? He didn't do the bag, he didn't do the corner. On the text, please, 61054. Start your message with Simon. Do you forgive or do you not forgive? A while back, we had a people's verdict coming in because of Jimmy's confession. He basically should have gone to the loo at the airport, but he didn't, and then he didn't on the plane, then he didn't at the cheese shops, and then he didn't at the hotel reception, and he got into all kinds of difficulties in the lift. Okay, the people's verdict, here it is.
So Janet on the Whirl says, forgive the wee man. Not his fault, and he was obviously very thoughtful of other people's feelings. Simon in Woking says, I agree with Matt. I can only imagine that Jimmy is already Basil Fawlty. A really cheesy tale, though.
Okay.
And finally, Rupert says, not forgiven, jog on, loser.
Oh, I see that. I like the way they're kind of tying two features together. How about that?
Yeah.
If you have a confession, we'd love to hear it. Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Which has been the most entertaining confession? Obviously,
I've got a favourite already.
But you haven't heard today's.
I know.
Okay.
We'll see if it beats it.
Okay. Well, it's going to have to go some because it's been a very strong week. Don't forget, if you have a confession, you send it to confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. And if yours is the best of the week, you get a smart speaker. That's what happens, which you can just say, play Greatest Hits Radio. And then that's what happens. And then it does. And then everything is easier. Today's comes from Baz. Baz, thank you, Father Simon, Sister Susie, and Brother from the Gutter. My confession goes back to 1970, when I was still at school and got a holiday job on a chicken farm. The farm was quite advanced for its time. I think you would call them barn-raised chickens now. In addition to the chickens, the farm had 2 black and white goats, a billy goat and a nanny goat. They were tethered separately between the chicken sheds, and their job was to eat the grass, and the farmer would milk the nanny goat to provide the milk for everyone's tea. A perfect arrangement, and yes, this does mark the return of a goat.
A goat.
To the confessional for the first time since 1990. Who knows? Unlikely.
No.
Different times, Matt, different times. Wouldn't be allowed on. No. The farmer briefed me on my job, which was to paint the outside of the wooden chicken sheds, and they had to be painted black. He gave me a paintbrush, he gave me black paint, he gave me gloves and a wooden ladder. The only briefing I got, essentially, was to get on with it and to keep the goats separate. That was it. So with my trusty transistor radio, I set to work. It's a hot summer, and I grooved to the local radio station as it blasted out the #1 Mungo Jerry in the summertime. I mean, presumably it blasted other things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would have been a bit boring. The farmer was not very diligent, I should tell you, because he was down the pub most of the time. Now, all was going smoothly with the painting until I came to the chicken shed next to where the billy goat was tethered. The first thing that hit me was an awful smell. Essentially, I smelt the billy goat before I saw him. Think of the strongest smelling goat cheese you've ever known and multiply it by 1,000.
Oh,
that was the smell. Wow. It was gross. The billy goat seemed to have some sort of oily musk on its coat, giving off this dreadful smell. To make matters worse, Billy Goat was very, very feisty. As I put up my ladder, he started nudging me with his head, and consequently, now I smelt too of old goat as he wiped his head on my trousers.
Oh, lovely.
So I quickly got up the ladder to carry on painting and avoid the billy goat. Now, being under the painting is never a good idea, so Billy Goat started to get splattered with black paint. This made no difference. He stood under my ladder, and the bleating got louder and louder. I went down the ladder, shooed Billy Goat away. However, as soon as I got back up the ladder, Billy Goat was back underneath, bleating at the top of his voice. Every time I shooed Billy Goat away, he returned. As I got back up the ladder a third time, I became aware of a slight rumbling vibration on the ladder. Billy Goat had upped the ante. I looked down to see Billy Goat gnawing the top of my wooden ladder.
Wow.
He was eating the thing that I was standing on. Well, I had to do something. Billy Goat had to go somewhere else. So I uprooted the stake that Billy Goat was tethered to and led him, still bleating, towards another area between the sheds. Now, unfortunately, we had to go past the nanny goat to get there.
Oh, dear.
Billy Goat immediately ran up to the nanny goat and they started being friendly.
Oh, dear.
To my surprise, nanny goat was very, very pleased to see Billy Goat.
Oh, that's good
and
news.
she encouraged proceedings.
Oh, did she?
They were both, I have to report, Father Simon, incredibly friendly with each other. They made a lovely couple. Nanny was wagging her tail, obviously very happy. Billy had stopped bleating. What could possibly be wrong with this?
Yeah.
The world needed more love.
Yes,
more
indeed.
goat love, maybe. So I left. There's a song in there. So I left Billy Goat with Nanny Goat. A win-win, I thought. I could go back to my painting. I finished the section of the shed and got back into grooving to Mungo Jerry. Everything was going swimmingly until later that day, after Nanny Goat was milked and all the workers had a tea break. The form was that we all congregated in the farmer's kitchen for tea breaks. We sat around an oak table on flagstones with one of those plastic tablecloths in a printed tartan pattern. Unnecessary detail. The farmer... should have crossed that one out. Yeah. The farmer put all the mugs in the middle of the table and we poured goat's milk into each one and everyone had their tea. Then when they were full, we all grabbed a mug. There was an almighty gushing sound, a bit like when one of those Italian water fountains started up, because together with a chorus of bleh, everyone spat out their tea. Second-hand tea was sprayed on the table and the floor. The tea tasted ever so strongly of Billy Goat's oily musk. It was so gross, it was undrinkable. Everyone was mad. The farmer asked, "Has anyone put the Billy Goat near the nanny goat?" "No," everyone replied. So I lied. The farmer duly threw out the milk that we had to have, so we had to have milkless tea that day, and for the next few days, as Billy's odour in the milk hung around for a while. So I should have done a warning, really, shouldn't I?
Bit late now.
I left the farm at the end of the summer holidays. However, several months later, I returned to work there during the Easter holidays. On the first day of my return, I walked past the chicken huts to see Billy Goat tethered on the grass. He seemed subtly changed, definitely standing proud with a bit of a swagger. As I walked on, I noticed Nanny Goat, also tethered, but with her was, as you might have guessed, a kid goat. I met the farmer and remarked about the addition to his goat flock, if that's indeed the correct word.
No.
He was not happy as he could still not milk Nanny Goat as the baby kid goat needed all the milk. He couldn't understand how Nanny Goat had ended up with a kid goat. Well, in my defence, it was really Billy Goat that caused all the trouble rather than me. And also, can I mention, Mungo Jerry again. Their hit goes, as you might remember, Father Simon, being Dr. Pop. In the meantime, in the summertime, when the summer is fine, you have women on your mind. And in Billy Goat's case, that's exactly what happened. So in a very real way, I feel it's Mungo Jerry's fault.
Oh, right.
Can I blame Mungo
Wow.
Jerry, please?
No.
Father Simon and your team, I would like to ask forgiveness, not from the farmer, as he should have had more hands to help out on the farm, but for my fellow workers who had their tea ruined for a week and probably could not go near a goat's cheese ever again, if you see what I'm saying. Well, I think we probably can see what you're saying, and we don't really like the sound of what you're saying. But at least the goats survived. Not only did they survive making up for the well moment of a couple of decades ago, there are now more goats.
More goats.
More goats on
Added
this
a goat
earth.
in.
So actually, that's a good thing and a happy ending. Sister Susie from the pub.
Yeah, that is a good thing. However, that smell, it made me feel a bit queasy, and I just can't forgive you for doing that. And because also, just go and get some other milk. If you haven't got any goat milk, just get some other milk.
Go to the shop and buy some.
Yeah, go buy some. He could have bought some to make up for the fact that he, done that. So I'm just not going to forgive him. Ugh.
Blame it on the farmer. Type farmer could have just paid for some more milk.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? Just go nip down the supermarket. They had milk in the 70s, I'm pretty sure. Just go down the supermarket and get some milk. We're laughing and learning tonight, aren't we? Who knew that if you allow a Billy Goat near a nanny goat, then the milk goes off? I didn't know that. And
Yes, I think that's what we learned.
So that is very much what I learned. I'm going to forgive just for the phrase "more goat love" because I never thought we'd get that on Greatest Hits Radio. So there you go, more goat love.
Okay, it's the people's verdict, please. Do you forgive Baz for his goat confession? What you have to do is you text 61054 and you start your message with Simon, and you can do it now. That's the way it goes. 61054, first word is Simon. Forgiveness for Baz, yes or no? The people's verdict is in on tonight's confession, which came from Baz. It involved a nanny goat and a Billy Goat. some goat's cheese. But anyway, everyone survived because there was a kid at the end.
Yes,
which
literally.
Anyway, people's verdict in like this.
So Gina says he's forgiven as the Billy Goat obviously needed some attention from Nanny Goat. All furs in love and war. And Ray in Hornchurch says forgiven. He didn't blame it on the sunshine, didn't blame it on the Billy Goat, didn't blame it on the Nanny Goat. He blamed it on the boogie.
Very good. Okay, so we have to decide our confession of the week. Monday's was from Jumpin' Jack. That was the Sambuca, Tequila and Da Bomb. Jerry's confession, the backstage subterfuge and cheating with Art Garfunkel, an innocent party in the background. Jimmy provided yesterday's confession. He should have gone to the loo a little bit earlier, but he didn't until he got to Ireland. But he did have a rant in the lift, which was the cause of the problem. And we just had our final confession of the week from Baz with the goat's milk. Which is our favourite? Where does the smart speaker go? Brother Matthew.
I'm going to go for Monday's, the Sambuca one with the Steves.
Oh yes, that's right. That was very good. Sister Susie, where are we going to go for that?
I think I'm going yesterday's. That I need a wee one. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
That's my favourite.
You should have gone to the toilet before he got onto the plane, before he got to Ireland, before he got to the hotel.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Susie on this one.
Wow.
Sorry, but no offence.
Again.
Our confession of the week comes from Jimmy. It's the toilet-based confession.
Yes.
Very good. That's the smart speaker allocated. Very good news. And your confession for next week, please. Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk.